Slowly and then all at once, that is how the development of vertical takeoff and landing aircraft is going to happen. And we just got some good news today out of Dubai. Joby Aviation is now flying aircraft in Dubai. This should be the first area around the world that they're actually going to launch a commercial service. That could happen by the end of 2025. I would count on it more like early in 2026. But the fact that they're already flying before the first half of 2025 is over is really, really good news. And the market is reacting very positively. Shares are up about 15% as I'm recording. Now, this is a stock that I own, and I would love to add more actually as the price rises. This is a really unique position that Joby is in. Their odds of success actually go up as their stock price increases because it's going to be easier to raise capital. And they are going to need to raise capital to be able to build out all their manufacturing capacity and build out potentially that ownership business model that would provide the highest margins, where they actually own and operate aircraft and their own eVTOL air taxi service. But let's dig into the news and why the market is reacting so positively. My name is Travis Hoyam. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. First of all, let's just look at the stock chart because this was a pretty big jump early in the day. And if we just take a step back, year to date, shares are up 33%. But you can see here that shares hit a low in April. This is when the market was hitting a low right around $5 per share. And since then, the stock's up about 100%. So just phenomenal returns from those lows. This is actually a little bit later than this was when I started buying shares of Joby because I saw the potential and we had a timeline on the horizon where they were actually going to be launching commercial operations. So let's get to that. This was the press release that came out today. They cement their global lead in air taxi industry with Dubai flights and beginning of commercial market readiness work. That is a direct shot at Archer Aviation, who's also building aircraft and building a business model, but they're a little bit behind on the timeline versus Joby. And I think this is one of the reasons I own Joby, is that they are a very focused company. They are doing one thing. They're not trying to have 1,000 partnerships out there. Yes, they are partnering with the military, but it's not nearly the focus that it is at Archer Aviation. They are really wanting to build this aircraft that's specifically built to be an air taxi, and they want to build out that air taxi service. That's the business model. So they delivered their first aircraft to the UAE, and they have already begun successfully beginning commercial market readiness work with multiple piloted vertical takeoff and landing wing-borne flights. So they're already flying. And the first step is just going to be testing how the aircraft operates in harsh conditions in Dubai. What happens when you have that kind of heat? They've been doing some tested at Edwards Air Force Base, but this is a whole nother level. So that's going to be the big project over the next few months, is just making sure that the aircraft operates and is safe in a way that they're going to be able to get to commercial operations. So now they don't give any dates here, but they do say that they're advancing toward air taxi operations in partnership with their partners in Dubai. So they're going to be building out these vertiports. That's here what they call out with Skyport's infrastructure. And the plan is to have 4 locations for now: the International Airport, Palm Jumeirah, Dubai Marina, and Dubai Downtown. This first vertiport is already into construction. This was announced in November 2024, so this is a little while ago. But you can see kind of the vision here. This is going to be a multimodal vertiport station. So the idea is you could take off from the airport, let's say, and get to downtown and then hop on a scooter. That was one of the examples they had in the press release. So it's a full piece of faster transportation, traveling up to 200 miles per hour. Now, 4 locations, not all that many. We're not talking about saving hours per trip, but you are talking about saving 45 minutes, maybe an hour if there's a lot of traffic. And that's really the first step, is just to build out and test the infrastructure with a relatively small number of locations. Then you would build out more infrastructure, and for Joby, into more cities. I think this is going to be a pretty small area. And Archer is going to be operating in Abu Dhabi. I don't know if they're going to be transporting between the 2 cities. But you can imagine in the US, for example, if they have a network of vertiports in New York and New Jersey, all the way to Philadelphia, there could be a lot of transportation in a lot of areas where you could take off and land with these vertiports. So the infrastructure, we're just learning about what that's going to look like. And this is one of the examples that is currently being built in Dubai. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. But here's the other piece of this. I mentioned that Joby is going to need to raise more money to be able to operate their business. And that business, if we go back to the original today's press release, this is a significant step to their three-pronged commercialization strategy. Direct operations. That's where they're going to be owning the aircraft and actually operating them, collecting fees for each person that's being transported. Then you could potentially sell aircraft. And I believe what they're doing in Dubai is actually a regional partnership. So they're going to be involved in the operations of these vertiports and the entire network, but they are going to probably be selling the aircraft to the company, to the local company that's operating these. That's probably going to be the business model of choice in many areas around the world. But to do this, you need to raise money. And this is where the stock price becomes really interesting for Joby. This fundraising round, and this was announced May 27th, but the price that Toyota got to invest $250 million was actually about $5 per share, if my memory is right. Now the stock is trading for nearly $11 per share. And the market cap over that period of time has gone from about $4 billion to almost $8 billion. So you can imagine if they need to raise another $250 million, which by the way, they will with Toyota, there's an agreement to have another $250 million tranche for them. That next tranche should be less dilutive because the stock price is higher. So the higher stock price actually allows you to raise more money and lowers the risk that you're going to run out of money before you get to full operations. Joby is still basically pre-revenue today. That we have line of sight to them actually operating commercial operations maybe this year or probably next year. And then you start to look at how profitable are they? What's the gross margin? What's the potential operating margin once they get to scale? But again, you're going to need a lot of funds. Think about Tesla in the early 2010s. They had to raise billions and billions and billions of dollars before they finally got profitable later in the decade. Joby is going to be on a similar path. And actually, the higher the stock price, the less dilutive it is to raise money and the easier it is to raise money. So it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's one of the things I look at. I'm actually more bullish on Joby as the stock price rises and as they have operating performance like we see today. So that's really what I'm taking away from this. That's what I think, why I think this is such big news. If they actually get to the point where they can get on a conference call after Q2 or Q3 and say, you know what, here's when we're going to launch commercial operations in Dubai, that's when things get really interesting for them and they move into the next phase for investors. But this was, I think, phenomenal news. I think if the market continues to be on fire, this is going to provide more momentum for Joby. This is the only stock I own in this space. I've looked at Archer. It's another one I may eventually add. But I just thought Joby was the leader, and it's because of things like this. They're actually focused on the right things and actually get into market quickly with an air taxi service. So if you want more on them, subscribe here on YouTube. I'll be keeping up to date on what's going on with Joby. I think this is one of the more fascinating companies in the market today, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.